To yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Shabbat. He's chairman of the Small Business Committee and a senior member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs and the author of this measure.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Ohio for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to today in support of HCR Res 88. I was one of the original founders of the Congressional Taiwan Caucus. It was a bipartisan group of people who founded it. I've been the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee on Asia and the Pacific and have been a long-time friend of Taiwan, been there probably a dozen times over the years. And this important legislation reaffirms the Taiwan Relations Act and the 6 assurances as cornerstones of U.S.-Taiwan relations. As a longtime supporter of Taiwan, as I mentioned, I believe that the U.S.-Taiwan relationship is absolutely vital to the security and sustainability, not just of Taiwan, but of the whole region. Taiwan is a close ally, one that truly believes and practices freedom and democracy. We witnessed this firsthand this past January, as some of my colleagues have mentioned, when the people of Taiwan held democratic national elections, resulting in the election of Tsai Ing-wen. And I want to congratulate her and wish her best wishes in her role as president of Taiwan. Taiwan elects their people democratically, unlike the PRC right across the Taiwan Strait. And as we know, China has been bullying Taiwan for many years now. It's unfortunate that the PRC, China, doesn't follow, as an example, the people of Taiwan who democratically elect their leaders. Taiwan faces an unrelenting threat from China, which has nearly 1,600 ballistic missiles aimed at this small island. I remember when I came to Congress about 20 years ago, we talked about how scary it was that there were a couple hundred 200 or 300 missiles aimed at Taiwan at that time. That has increased over the years to 1,600 missiles aimed at Taiwan from China. And although Taiwan enjoys de facto independence, China's ultimately goal is to take over Taiwan, to annex Taiwan, whatever the people of Taiwan believe. We absolutely cannot let that happen. China's ultimate goal, as I say, is the annexation of the island. We have all seen the growing hostilities in the East China Sea and South China Sea over the last couple of years, and I believe that it underscores, this legislation underscores the point that the Taiwan Strait continues to be one of the potential flashpoints on the globe. We've seen China literally building islands and then militarizing those islands, much to the chagrin of all their neighbors in the region, from Japan to Vietnam to Taiwan to Philippines and on and on. That's what the PRC, China, has been up to. Any sort of solution between China and Taiwan should be reached in a peaceful and fair manner, and only with the agreement of the people of Taiwan. Mr. Speaker, April 10, 2016 marked the 37th anniversary of the enactment of the Taiwan Relations Act, the TRA. This act codifies into law an institutional framework and legal basis for continued interaction between the U.S. and Taiwan, and it serves to maintain peace and stability in the Western Pacific. When President Ronald Reagan agreed to sign the U.S.-China Third Communique in 1982, he was aware of the communique's effect on Taiwan and fully recognized that Taiwan needed to be reassured that they would not be abandoned, and they will not be abandoned by the United States. In order to reinforce American support for Taiwan, the United States issued the 6 assurances. The 6 assurances provided a framework for sustaining the unique relationship between the United States and our ally, Taiwan. Mr. Speaker, they are as valid today as they were back in 1982. They rightfully function along with the TRA as cornerstones of U.S.-Taiwan relations. I encourage my colleagues to support this, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from California reserves. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York.